The school board member stood in the cafeteria doorway, clipboard in hand, watching Maria Santos scrape congealed mystery meat into industrial-sized trash bins. "We need to discuss the lunch program budget. The health inspector gave us another citation. Parents are complaining. Honestly, Maria, I'm not sure why we're still serving this food." He gestured vaguely at the steam tables where gray chickens sat in pools of grease. Maria continued her work, her movements steady and practiced, exactly as everyone expected from the 52-year-old woman who'd been serving cafeteria lunch for 6 years. She wore a hairnet, a stained white apron, comfortable shoes for standing all day. She spoke with a slight accent. She was exactly what people expected a school lunch lady to be: invisible, unskilled, barely worth the $32,000 a year they paid her. What nobody at Jefferson Middle School knew was that Maria Santos had once held 3 Michelin stars. The Jefferson Middle School cafeteria served 800 students daily. Maria had worked there for 6 years, arriving at 5:30 a.m. to prep, serving lunch from 11 to 1, cleaning until 3 p.m. She wore the standard hairnet and apron, followed the standardized recipes from the district office, recipes designed for bulk production, minimal cost, maximum shelf stability, zero soul. She heated frozen chicken patties, opened industrial cans of green beans, portioned out shelf-stable milk. The other cafeteria workers treated her kindly, but with condescension. The teachers barely acknowledged her existence. The students called her lunch lady and threw away most of what she served. And Maria said nothing, served her portions, cleaned her stations, and went home to her small apartment where nobody knew that she'd once created dishes that made food critics weep. What nobody at Jefferson knew was that Maria Santos had spent 22 years building a culinary empire. She'd trained under legends in France, worked her way up through impossible kitchens where women were dismissed and immigrants were doubted. She'd opened Luminaria in Manhattan in 1998 with borrowed money and a vision. The first Michelin star came in 2001, the second in 2003, the third in 2007. She'd been profiled in every food magazine. She'd cooked for presidents. She'd mentored a generation of young chefs. And then her husband Carlos had been diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's at 52. The progression had been brutal. She'd tried to manage both the restaurant and his care. She'd failed at both. The third star was lost, then the second. She'd sold Luminaria in 2013, moved to this small town where Carlos had grown up, used the money to pay for his care. And she'd taken the first job she could find that let her visit him every evening, a job where nobody recognized her name, where nobody expected anything from her except showing up on time. Now, standing in the Jefferson cafeteria while the school board member reviewed citations and budget cuts, Maria made a calculation. The health inspector had given them 90 days to improve or face closure of the lunch program, which meant 800 kids, most from low-income families where school lunch was often the only reliable meal, would lose that lifeline. The board member was talking about contracting with a bulk food provider. "Your position would be eliminated, of course, but you understand, we have to think about what's best for the students." Maria looked at him directly for the first time. "You want what's best for the students?" "Of course. Then let me cook, real food, not this frozen processed garbage. Give me 90 days and a real food budget and I'll pass every health inspection. The students will actually eat the food." The board member laughed. "Maria, this isn't home cooking. This is feeding 800 students with health codes and budgets. It requires professional expertise." Maria pulled off her hairnet, and somehow without it, she looked different, more commanding, more present. "I know exactly what it requires, and I know exactly how to do it." "I trained at Le Cordon Bleu in Paris," Maria continued, her voice taking on authority that made the board member stop mid-laugh. "I worked under Chef Daniel Boulud. I opened my own restaurant Luminaria in Manhattan in 1998. We received our first Michelin star in 2001, our second in 2003, our third in 2007. For 4 years, we held 3 Michelin stars, the highest possible rating, an achievement only a handful of restaurants in America have ever reached. Food critics called my cooking transformative. Anthony Bourdain filmed an episode in my kitchen and said I was one of the most talented chefs of our generation. She gestured at the kitchen around them. And yes, I can absolutely figure out how to feed 800 middle school students healthy, delicious food on a district budget while meeting every health code. The question is whether you'll let me or whether you'd rather eliminate the lunch program and leave these kids without reliable meals. The silence was absolute. Finally, You had 3 Michelin stars? Had. Past tense. I sold my restaurant 12 years ago for personal reasons. I came here for a quiet job where nobody knew my name. But if the choice is between these kids losing their lunch program or me breaking my own rules about staying invisible, I choose the kids. The board member made calls. By afternoon, the superintendent had Googled her name and found articles, reviews, archived menus from Luminaria. By the next morning, Maria had been given a 90-day trial, a modest increase to the food budget with permission to buy fresh ingredients instead of frozen bulk products, and complete autonomy over the lunch program. She started at 4 a.m. instead of 5:30. She built relationships with local farms for fresh produce. She negotiated with regional suppliers for quality proteins at bulk prices. She redesigned the menu entirely, not fancy food, but real food that kids would actually eat. Monday, roasted chicken with herbs, rice with properly cooked vegetables, fresh fruit. The cost per meal was actually lower than the frozen patties had been. Tuesday, pasta with marinara made from real tomatoes, garlic bread, salad with ranch dressing the kids could see being made. Wednesday, tacos with seasoned ground beef, fresh salsa, real cheese, beans that didn't come from a can. Within 2 weeks, something remarkable happened. The trash bins that used to overflow with thrown-away food were half empty. Students were actually eating lunch, coming back for seconds. Teachers started eating cafeteria food instead of bringing lunch from home. By week 6, the health inspector returned for a surprise visit and found a kitchen that exceeded every standard. He left without a single citation. By week 8, the local newspaper heard about the transformation and sent a reporter. The reporter was young, looking for a human interest story about school lunch improvements. She interviewed students who raved about the food. She talked to teachers who praised the change. And then she Googled Maria Santos to get background for her story. What she found made it something much bigger. You're the Maria Santos from Luminaria, the 3-star Michelin chef? You've been here for 6 years serving school lunch? Yes. But why? You were at the pinnacle of the culinary world. Maria was quiet for a long moment. My husband got sick. Early onset Alzheimer's. He needed full-time care that I couldn't provide while running a 3-star restaurant with 16-hour days. I had to choose between my career and being there for him. I chose him. I sold Luminaria, moved here where he grew up, used the money to pay for the best memory care facility. I needed a job where I could visit him every evening, where nobody would recognize me, where I wouldn't have to explain my choices. She paused. He passed away 18 months ago, but by then, I'd been here for almost 5 years. The routine was comfortable. I wasn't ready to go back to that other life, until they threatened to close the program. The article ran 3 days later, not just in the local paper, but picked up by regional outlets, then food magazines, then national news. 3-star Michelin chef serves school lunch and transforms everything. The story went viral. Food Network called. The Today Show wanted an interview. Other school districts wanted to know how she'd managed the transformation on a standard budget. Former colleagues reached out. Maria declined most of it. She agreed to one TV interview where she explained her philosophy. Good food isn't about expensive ingredients or complicated techniques. It's about respecting the ingredients, understanding the people you're feeding, and caring enough to do it properly. These kids deserve real food made with care, whether they're eating in a 3-star restaurant or a school cafeteria. The principles are the same. 3 months after her trial started, the school board held a meeting. The cafeteria was packed with parents, students, teachers. The board member who'd originally threatened to eliminate Maria's position stood to present findings. In the past 90 days, student lunch participation has increased by 47%. Food waste has decreased by 68%. Parent complaints have dropped to 0. The health inspector has given us the highest rating possible. Our cost per meal is 12% lower than under the old system, and student behavior in afternoon classes has improved. Teachers report better focus, which they attribute to students actually eating nutritious lunches. He looked directly at Maria. Mrs. Santos, on behalf of the board, I apologize for underestimating you. We'd like to offer you a new position, Director of Nutrition Services for the entire district. You'd oversee lunch programs at all 12 schools, train cafeteria staff, manage sourcing and menus. The salary would be $68,000 a year. Would you accept? Maria considered. She thought about Carlos, about the choice she'd made to walk away from Luminaria. She thought about visibility versus invisibility, about whether hiding your capabilities was protecting yourself or just a different kind of prison. I accept, on one condition. We start a culinary training program for interested students. Teach them real cooking skills, knife techniques, food safety. Every person should know how to feed themselves and their families well. That's what my grandmother taught me. That's what I want to teach them. 6 months later, Jefferson Middle School's cafeteria had been featured in Food and Wine magazine. Maria had trained staff at all 12 district schools in her methods. 3 other school districts had hired her as a consultant. She'd started the student culinary program, 20 kids meeting twice a week after school to learn real cooking skills. She still wore her hairnet and apron. She still served lunch alongside her staff. But now when she walked into a kitchen, people knew exactly who they were working with. The students called her Chef Maria instead of Lunch Lady. She'd learned that you didn't have to choose between being the invisible cafeteria worker and being the celebrated chef. You could be both. You could serve food to middle schoolers at 11:30 a.m. and consult with food service directors at 3 p.m. The difference now was choice, authenticity, and the knowledge that hiding your capabilities didn't protect you. It just meant refusing to use them when they could help people. Some skills didn't fade just because you stopped using them in Michelin-starred restaurants. And some people were exactly what they appeared to be, until the moment they decided to stop pretending and be honest about all the parts of who they were. Maria had spent 6 years being invisible. Now she'd learned that visibility didn't mean returning to 18-hour days and critic reviews. It just meant being honest about who she was, the dedicated cafeteria worker and the 3-star chef, the server of school lunch and the transformer of food systems. Both were real, both mattered, and both could exist in the same person, feeding kids who deserved better than frozen mystery meat. If you enjoyed this story of hidden brilliance and the power of underestimated expertise, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and smash that like button for more powerful stories of people who proved that age is just a number and that the most dangerous capabilities often hide behind the most ordinary appearances. What would you do? Stay silent and protect your peace, or reveal yourself to save people who disrespected you? Drop your thoughts below. Where are you watching from? Let us know your country in the comments. We love hearing from our amazing community around the world.